So a couple things to start off with. As we go, if you do have questions that are pertinent to the kind of specific thing we're talking about, you can go ahead and put them in the chat. We'll have a couple people monitoring, helping. Otherwise, we'll have plenty of time afterwards, so you can hold on to your questions, and then we'll circle back to them. So make sure to just make a note, and then you can ask them then. We can go into more detail and explain the answer. Okay, so let's jump right in. I want to make sure we have plenty of time. A couple of things from the video you already watched that we want to reinforce. Who we are, academic advisors. Whatever you need us to be, frankly. We're here to help you on your academic journey for sure, but we're also kind of touch point for anything you might need at the university. We don't do everything, but we know who does. So if you have a question, don't hesitate to reach out to us, and we can make sure that you get connected to who you need to get connected with. So think of us that way. Don't worry about whether or not it's the right question. We'll answer it or find out the answer for you. You also covered what you need, the curriculum, graduation requirements, the kind of big picture boxes you need to check in order to graduate in your 2 to 4 years. What you already have, right? The AP placement tests, IB, transfer credit, all the kind of course credit that you may or may not be bringing in with you, and how to plan around that so you're not doing anything that you've already done before. And you're sending it in time. We have all the credit that we need before you start registering. And then finally, given all that, what do you take, right? What do you actually put in your shopping cart and try to register for the fall that would make for a good first semester schedule? So those are all the things that we kind of covered already, but we'll want to reinforce those are the kind of critical takeaways. And now I want to sort of move over to some of the resources that we have to offer that'll help you kind of figure out some of those questions. So I'm going to share my screen, I hope. And you can either follow along with me as we go through some of these resources, or you can just watch as I go through them. A lot of these are going to be referenced in each other. So, Sakai is going to have links to a lot of these resources. So don't worry too much about keeping track of everything. We'll have kind of a hub where you can see where all those resources live. So first things first, you're probably interested in what major that you want to be. You may have an idea coming in when you applied, but that may change. It may have already changed. So you want to make sure that you know kind of big picture, where do I go to find requirements for different majors and see what makes sense for me. On our website, advising.unc.edu, there's a lot of good information. One, there's a little chat box that's open most of the time these days. If you have quick questions, you want to talk to one of our staff people or an advisor, you can answer quick questions there. There's also any kind of announcements that go through our office. They're going to be listed on our website, any upcoming deadlines, things like that. So once the semester kicks off, this will be a good resource just to keep track of what's going on around campus. Once the fall semester starts and you're a student at UNC, you've got the ability to make appointments with advisors and go over anything specific that you want to talk to us about. So we have that. We have our drop-in schedule if you just want to come in and ask one question real quick. So all of that stuff is on here, and a lot more that we don't need to go over right now, but just know that it's a good place to poke around if you have questions about what we do. For our purposes, I want to look at what we call academic worksheets. So on our main site, there's a link right here on the right. It's going to take you to this site, and this is a list of all of the majors that we offer. Okay, so I'm guessing there's probably at least one bio major or someone who wants to be a bio major in here, so we can look there. If you click on the department, you'll see all the majors that they offer. Often a lot of our science majors will have a Bachelor of Arts version and a Bachelor of Science version. Some of them even have different tracks. So there's a regular biology BS and a quantitative BS. For now, we don't need to worry too much about that, but know that all the different majors have their own worksheets that you can look at. You'll want to make sure that you're choosing the requirement term that applies to you. That just means that majors change over the years, and we want to make sure that you're following the requirements that you're subject to. That starts with the year that you come in. So 2020 is your year for worksheets right now. If later changes are made and you want to move up into a new year, that's fine. You just can never come before you came to UNC. So 2020 and up is going to be your requirements. If we look at the Bachelor of Science, for instance, we'll take to this PDF. It gives you a kind of big picture overview of all of your requirements to graduate if you are a Bachelor of Science in biology, okay? Some of this should look familiar. So the foundations, approaches, connections, all of the gen eds that we went over in that video, they're all laid out here. The English 105, your foreign language, all of the kind of acronyms that you'll get familiar with, the GL, the WB, the QR, all that stuff. This is for everybody. Everyone needs to complete these requirements to graduate from the College of Arts and Sciences. For specific majors, you'll notice that some of them are already filled in. As a bio major, we know you're going to take Bio 101 in lab, so we know that you've got your physical and life science covered. So this is going to be a more specific view depending on which major you choose. Once we move down here, you'll see the actual major requirements. So we have the core requirements, which are usually things within the department itself. So 8 different courses within biology that you have to complete. Allied sciences, other requirements outside of the department typically that you need to complete to finish the major. And then sometimes some additional requirements beyond that that aren't part of the kind of core courses, but are still required at some point, usually part of some sequence that you have to work your way through. It's nice that you kind of get a one view. It's not too granular, so you can see everything at once of all the boxes that you need to check in order to graduate with this degree. The worksheets also have these really handy notes. It's a lot of fine print kind of giving you caveats and instructions. You'll notice some of these requirements have a specific course that you need to complete. Some of them, you have options, right? So how do I know which options are going to fulfill this requirement? I can go down to the note and see, okay, here's a list of all these courses that I can take, and any of them is going to fulfill this requirement. This probably looks a little overwhelming right now, but it will make more sense once you get more familiar with our curriculum. Just know that it's here as a kind of big picture resource to look at different majors, compare what classes are required for which, see what the difference is between a BA and a BS, that kind of stuff. Okay, moving right along. We've got, let's go to the catalog. So, let's see. The catalog is a great resource for pretty much anything you need to know about UNC. It has all the policies and procedures, anything you need to know about adding, dropping courses, all that stuff. But for our purposes, it's really helpful when trying to research a little more about majors and minors. On the catalog, so catalog.unc.edu, under undergraduate, you'll have a couple options, and these are obviously going to be particular to you as an undergraduate student. Explore programs is a great place to start. So from here, every single major and minor is going to be listed. A nice little tool on the left here, you can narrow down your results based on what you're looking for. I want to see only Bachelors of Science, you have that option. I want to see only the minors, you have that option. Also by area of interest. If you're interested in exercise, health, and wellness, here are all the majors and minors that we offer that have something to do with those interests. So it's a great way to kind of explore all the majors and the minors that we have to offer and kind of narrow them down according to what you're most interested in pursuing. I think it's a good way to sort of expand your horizons and think, you know, I never knew that a food studies minor could be a thing, but suddenly that seems really interesting to me. That being said, I know we talked about biology. If we look at our, you know what, let's look at the BA as an alternative, maybe. See if I can figure it out. Here we go. So every department has its own page. It's going to have basic information about the major and what it's all about. They also have the office for the department, phone number, all the important people you may need to know, including our faculty advisor, who's going to potentially pop in a little later. All of those folks, their contact info, if you need to talk to someone specific, it's all on the catalog. So again, great one-stop shop for all that info. As far as the major is concerned, we have an overview of the major, outcomes that you'll get from completing this major, the requirements, same thing that's listed on the worksheets, just in a slightly different format. The nice thing about the catalog is that everything is clickable. So not only do I know that I need to take Bio 201 to complete my biology degree, Now I can see what Bio 201 actually is. How many credits is it? What kind of prerequisites does it have? Does it fulfill any gen eds? All that information is on here, and you can kind of go down your own little Wikipedia hole of all the different courses that are required to get you to what course you actually want to complete. So again, a little overwhelming, a lot of information, but it gives you a little more precise information as far as what courses actually cover and where you want to maybe fit them into your plan. Speaking of which, some of these majors also offer a sample plan to give you kind of a general overview of courses they recommend that you do by year. So if I want to complete my Bio BA, here are some courses you might take in your first year, your second year, junior year, senior year, get to that 120 you need to graduate. I will say that use this as a roadmap, but it is not the only way to complete these degrees. There are lots of different combinations of courses that are going to get you where you want to go in the end. I think it's tempting to look at this and think this is the only way to do it, and if I don't do it, then I just can't do that major anymore. It's not the case. Okay, so use this as a resource, but it's not the end-all be-all of how to complete a major at UNC. Okay, what else have we got here? And again, feel free to post any questions, and I think Cliff and Salma can answer as we go. Okay. Oh, I will say before we go on to the next resource, the search bar is your friend. It's the easiest way to get exactly where you want to go when you're trying to use the catalog. So if I have a specific course in mind, I want to know what Chem 430 is. You can type it into the search bar. It's going to take you directly to that course. Same information you get when you click on it, any kind of prereqs, that kind of thing. Same with any department. If I want to know where American Studies is, right, you can look to their department website. Same information that would be on any of the other majors that we're looking at. So when in doubt, type it in here. You'll probably get where you want to go. Okay, moving on. Sakai, I know you're pretty familiar with at this point, and it's a good place, again, a hub for all the resources that we've talked about. Pretty much anything that we've gone over, there's a link to it in Sakai. So if you remember one thing, Sakai is the place to be. One place in particular that I'll point you to is this course registration guide. This has a lot of the tips that we're going over today that are covered in the video, including links to a lot of the information that you might find useful moving forward. This registration video series, for instance, that's going to cover all the nuts and bolts, the actual clicks you need to click to get through Connect Carolina and use it to enroll in classes. So this will be a great resource moving forward to review how to actually pick courses and get ready to enroll. There are also some links to the new student guide. Those will direct you to lists of courses that are recommended by major and by gen ed, right? So if I want to know, I'm a bio major and I don't know what to take my first year, what are some recommended courses? This will take you directly there and show you, here, according to major, here's some great courses for first year students. Same with the gen eds. If I need a great physical life science course, what should I pick? Here are things that we've already gone through and shown, like, yes, first years can be successful in these courses. So you can use those again as a nice guide to get through where you want to go. Okay. I'm not going to harp too much on Sakai since I know you've been on it a lot and been using it a lot up till now. But again, if you have any questions about where to find something, we can circle back in the Q&A. Okay. Moving right along. Okay, so I want to take some time to do a quick demo of Connect Carolina. And again, we don't expect you to retain all of this right off the bat. That's why we're kind of hitting it repeatedly, because Connect Carolina is not the most intuitive system, so we want to make sure you have plenty of time to kind of acclimate and get used to how it works. We've got this kind of fake account that we can use and walk through some of the steps that you might find handy when searching for courses and trying to find stuff to put in your shopping cart. So on your Student Center, if we go to the search engine, we can take a look at some of the things you can use to narrow down your results eventually. Okay, so this is your basic kind of search apparatus, right? You have a few options to choose from here that we want to point out. One that's going to be super helpful, search by class attribute. This is how you're going to narrow down things when you're looking for something that fulfills a specific gen ed, for instance. So using this little magnifying glass, you can say, you know, show me HS courses in fall 2020, right? And probably is going to give me way too many to choose from right now. So this is a good thing to go through, because oftentimes you can get too many results. You need to know, how do I narrow it down? So a couple of different ways you can think about, you know, if I want to look at a specific department, right, you can search by that. And again, you can select subject if you're not sure what all the codes are to look up what you're looking for. And get a more precise count, right? So 17 classes in the American Studies department that fulfill historical analysis. You can also go by course number. So say generally you're thinking, I want to stay in, you know, 100 or 200 level course. Still too many options. So now we can go down to the additional search criteria and say, you know, I want to look for Monday, Wednesday, Friday courses. This course component allows you to say, I only want lectures, for instance, and we'll go about the difference between lecture and recitation here in a little bit. But this should kind of narrow things down a little bit so I have a more manageable number. Okay, now I have 14 courses from all different departments that all fulfill the HS requirement that are on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Right? So you can get really nitty gritty here and find courses that specifically meet your needs, or you can kind of blow it up and find sort of larger groups of courses to choose from. One thing I will say, we get out of here. First year seminars, that's something that's changing quite a bit with how fall is shaping up. I know there are fewer of them than we planned on having originally. But if you want to look for those, since this is your opportunity as a first year student, you can always look for things that are less than or equal to 99. All the first year seminars are going to be below 99. It gives you options to choose from there. So 64 different first year seminars that are still open. Any of these courses, you can click on the blue text to learn more about them. And it's going to give you all the information you saw on the main page, but also a description of the course, if there's any specific registration procedure. So if you can't just enroll yourself, how do I go about getting into this? Who do I need to contact to do that? Sometimes courses have reserves set on them to say, you know, 10 seats are only for transfer students. So if you can't get into a course, it'll always be laid out here so you can kind of see before planning on enrolling in it, oh, I might not be able to get in this class, so let me get a backup. All of that's going to be found in the class notes. Okay. One thing to know, let me think of a good option here. Difference between lectures and recitations. So because some of these classes are going to have a lot of students, so 100, 200, 300 students in some of these bigger lecture courses, they want to give you the opportunity to have a smaller group to have more class discussions rather than just listening to lectures. So they'll have something called a recitation. So maybe 2 days of the week you'll go to lecture, 1 day of the week you'll go to a recitation. It's going to be maybe 30 or 50 students as opposed to 400. And it gives you the opportunity to have a smaller class experience and have some more course discussion in a small group. Some courses are going to require those. You'll see them listed. Let's see, what's a good, probably like AMP 101. You'll see them listed when you search. So LEC for lecture. No, that's a bad example. Cliff, what's a good registration or recitation course?
Econ 101.
Econ 101. So you'll see. Oh, I only restricted it to lectures, didn't I? Okay, so we'll see that there are the lecture sections, LEC, but also REC, recitations. And groups of these recitations are going to be linked to certain of these lectures. When you select them and put them in the shopping cart and try to enroll, it's going to prompt you to find one of those recitations. so that you can do both at the same time. It's not going to allow you to do just the lecture without the recitation, so you'll be prompted to choose one. But you want to make sure that you have room in your schedule to accommodate the recitation and the lecture, because they're going to be at different times often, right? So the lecture might be Monday, Wednesday, 9 to 10, but the recitation might be Thursday, 3 to 4, right? So you want to make sure that you have room to accommodate all those different recitation times, because you'll have different options to choose from. But you can plan on that when you put them in your shopping cart. They'll prompt you to choose one of those recitations, so you can find out which ones kind of fit best in your schedule. Okay, what's our time like? Okay, real quickly, I want to look at a nice handy tool through your Student Center on Connect Carolina called the Tar Heel Tracker. This is a way to kind of show all of your graduation requirements, but also how far you are towards them. So on your Student Center, on this drop-down menu, you'll have Tar Heel Tracker as an option. Hit the button to generate the report. So this will show you not only based on your major what you have required to complete it, but also what kind of credit that you've already brought in that fulfills requirements. This is not worth looking at. It's really confusing. I wouldn't recommend it. The summary report is a much easier way to look at the same information. And you'll see similarities between what we saw in the catalog and what we saw in the worksheets. This is nice just because it's personalized to the credit that you already have. So if we look at the summary report, it'll give us a PDF. And here we go. So again, you'll see some of those same titles that we've looked at: foundations, approaches, connections. It gives you a list of all of the different requirements. The nice thing about the tracker is it shows you whether or not you've completed them. So English 105, it's in red, it's not satisfied, you haven't taken it yet. Physical and life science, you already have credit for Bio 101 and Lab, let's say, from AP credit. That's already filled in, and it's in black. So you can quickly go through and show all of my gen ed and major requirements. What have I fulfilled? What haven't I fulfilled? What gen eds do I need to target? So this is a handy way just to quickly look at all of your transfer credit, all of your AP credit, anything that you're bringing in, and see what you need to kind of fill the gaps when it comes to registration for this fall semester. Okay. So that being said, I feel like we've covered what we need to cover on the resources side. I want to make sure we have plenty of time for question and answer.
Hey, Adam, I think this is a perfect time. Dr. Shimmer just joined.
Oh, great. Perfect.
And so this would be a great time for him to introduce himself and give his updates as well.
Yeah, please do take it away.
Hey, guys. My name is Gidi Shemer. I'm a professor in the biology department, and I'm just going to see all of you. Okay, that's better. I'm a professor in the biology department as well as the faculty advisor of the biology majors. I'll be followed by Dr. Todd Ostell from chemistry, who will join after me. And we're just dropping by and popping into multiple sessions. So we don't have time for questions for me today, but I will put my email address after that on the chat box. Any questions you might have for me, just email me. Okay, so what I wanted to do in a few minutes is just to throw you some rules, I guess, or principles that we want you to follow from, not just as advisors, but also as professors in the classes, with hoping that you'll trust us from our experience. And the first thing you probably heard about, which is do not take more than 2 sciences and math in your first semester. So a classic, typical first semester for a science major, let's say I'll take a biology major, for example, would be Chemistry 101, Chemistry 101 Lab, and I call them as one course, although you need to enroll in separately, but we'll call it as just one course. So Chemistry 101 in the lab, together with whatever math you placed into, or statistics, for example. These are the 2 sciences. There are some other sciences, soft core sciences, I guess, that we can call, like Psychology 101, first-year seminars. They're all the first-year seminars in the sciences are good as a 3rd class. That's totally fine. But the big, hardcore science classes, just keep 2. The other rule, the other limit, is do not take 200 level classes in biology or in chemistry. There are very few exceptions like biology 221/LC food forensics. And if you're interested, you can contact the professor to see if there's some seats that are available. But typically, when it comes to biology and chemistry, don't take 200 level classes. We need you to learn how to walk before you start running. And this is true even for those of you who placed out of all of the prerequisites, the 101 classes, or even early college students. Wait with those 200 level classes to at least the spring semester. Most of you will actually take them as sophomores, some as spring semester. The third and almost final thing from my end would be that if you're a bio BS major, not necessarily a BA, but BS major, or if you're interested in pre-med, pre-health, I know there's another session, but some of you might consider that, then consider starting with chemistry and not biology. So chemistry 101 in lab in the first semester, and take the chemistry 102 and the biology 101 in the second semester. There's a sequence of 5 advanced chemistries that you need to take for the bio BS, and it's better to start with chemistry sooner rather than later. If you cannot and you have biology 101, that's totally fine, but just preference-wise, that would be better. And almost final thing from my end is a common question from students. I have an AP credit in biology 101 in lab. Should I take the classes here? Should I waive it? First off, the easy answer, if you have a lab credit, do not waive that. Enjoy your lab credit. You do not need to take biology 101 here at UNC. It will not give you any advantage. As for the lecture, typically your AP, if you placed out of using your AP or IB, you're fine. If you really feel uncomfortable, I guess, with that, you took it a few years ago, you hardly made the 3 in the AP, your class was not the best class ever, you can take the class. On the biology website, on the undergraduate section, we have a place for placement exam. You can check there during the summer and see. We're going to put an updated date for a Zoom. We'll do it through Zoom, a placement exam in biology on the first day of classes. And if you're not sure whether you need to waive or not waive your AP, you can simply take the placement exam and see. But that's basically it. If you're not on my listserv, you are supposed to automatically be added to my listserv, and you want to be on the bio listserv, just email me. And again, I'll pass the torch to Dr. Estelle, but I'll put my email address on the chat. Welcome everyone to Carolina. Looking forward to working with you.
Thanks, Giddy. So my name's Todd Ostell. I'm a professor in the chemistry department, kind of Giddy's counterpart across the street. I do work as our advisor for majors and manage the listserv. So I just put my contact info on the chat if you want to be added to the chem major listserv. I see several chem majors in this group. I know a lot of you will be taking chemistry this fall, Chem 101, 101L, 102, 102L, and the recitations. And some of you may have actually placed out of both of those. So I want to echo what Professor Schimmer said. You know, we really don't want you in any 200 level chems, but if you're a chem major who placed out of both, Chem 102H lecture is the course we recommend. And I put the contact info for the instructor for that course if that is your placement situation and you're a chem major. So it's on the chat board. You can get Professor Bleem's contact. I look forward to working with you. I'll be teaching a freshman seminar, Chem 73 this fall, and as well as a sophomore junior level course. But me, along with Dr. Tiani and Dr. Zerker in the department, serve as the 3 main advisors here for chem majors. And for any of you that are STEM majors, I work as a general STEM major advisor over in Steele Building. And when I was an undergrad, I see a lot of biology majors. I was a biology and a chemistry major. So I can kind of help you out with both, as well as like Dr. Schimmer can. So welcome to UNC. I look forward to seeing you face to face at some point. It's been a long time since we've seen people face to face, but we will see you this fall. Take care.
Great, thanks, Todd. Okay, I think we're ready to open up the floor to questions. I guess a couple different ways we can do this. If you have a question, you want to post it in the chat, and then we'll just kind of address them in order. Or if it's not a rush to get to the microphone, we can maybe open it up and ask questions verbally as well. So let's give you a second to think about any questions you might have, and then just let them rip. All right, starting off. Oh, go ahead, Cliff.
I was going to pose it to you, but would you recommend that all freshmen try to take a first year seminar? I mean, if I were to answer the question, I think they're great courses, and we can maybe toss it to Salma to see if maybe she took one as well. But I think they're great courses. It's a really good change of pace where many of your courses during your first semester are going to be of the larger variety. These courses are specifically designed to help students get acclimated to the campus and the college courses. They're taught by UNC's very best faculty member. The topics are very specific and interesting. So they do become a really good fit for many students. If that's something that you were looking for, the smaller class sizes, the great instructors, and things like that. So, and it's not something that everyone has to do, but if you find one that you feel like the topic is really engaging, or you think you'd be really interested in the content, then I think it would be a great idea. And you can take them either in the fall of your first year or the spring of your first year as well.
Yeah, Sonia, did you have anything to add? I don't know if you took one maybe
yeah,
your
I think I
first year.
touched upon this a little bit in our small group, but I would definitely recommend taking a first year seminar, because they're just like a very like laid back course, and it's a great way to get to know your classmates and just like make more friends at Carolina. So it'll definitely offer you a lot more connections as well.
Yeah, and kind of apropos, we'll be able to change our freshman seminar if we don't like ours. I'm assuming you were probably pre-enrolled in a freshman seminar. Absolutely, for any courses that you were pre-enrolled in, you can change those when you get into your registration session. We tried to do our best to kind of get you what you were interested in, but that's not always possible, and especially with the first year seminars, a lot of them are being canceled. So during registration, if you know it's not something that you're interested in, you can go ahead and switch it. If you want to wait and see, you can actually drop courses up to 2 weeks into the semester. So you can give it a shot, see if you like it. And then if you don't, you can always drop it and maybe have a backup class in place.
I'm gonna skip down to Jack's question just because it's relevant to this, but first year seminars are not required. Many of them do fulfill general education requirements as an option for you to use towards those requirements, but they are not required. Just strongly recommended and encouraged.
And I will say, I hear often from students, even if the class itself wasn't really in their wheelhouse, and maybe it's like, it was fine, it wasn't super interesting, the professors that teach them, they really enjoy, right? And these are instructors that have been kind of cherry picked because they do so well with students to teach these courses. So even if it means, it's somebody within the anthropology department, I'm kind of interested in anthropology, even though this first year seminar isn't exactly what I'm interested in, it'd still be a good idea to check it out, just because it can lead to a good relationship with that instructor that then you can take more classes from them and develop a relationship as you're here at UNC. So I would keep a kind of open mind as far as the topics go.
Another first year seminar question before we move on to a different topic. Are the seminars split half and half between the first semester and second semester? Because I'm not pre-enrolled in one currently. So should I try to enroll in one for the first semester instead of waiting until the second semester? I would say if you see one that's offered in the fall, definitely try to, enroll in it, even if you aren't pre-enrolled. That's totally fine. There still will likely be a handful of seats in those first year seminars that you can try to get into, or students, may have been pre-enrolled in one and they decided the topic is not interesting and they decide to drop it, which would then open up seats in those courses. The same first year seminars are not always offered semester to semester. So the spring first year seminars may be a combination of some that were offered in the fall, but also a handful of new courses as well. So if you see one that you like in the fall, definitely try to register for it, and you can do the same in the spring.
Yeah, you can take up to 2. So you could take one in the fall and the spring. So you're not limited to just taking the one. Yeah, it's worth taking a look just because they are often pretty interesting courses.
Yep. So with regard to IB credits, do we know how those are going to be counted? I'll speak for myself, and Adam, you may be able to join in. We are not really certain about how those things are going to be counted. I know with exams and things like all over the place or not happening. Admissions has a plan currently for how those things will be counted, if they're going to be counted and things like that. That has not yet been communicated to all of us yet. And so I know that is something that they are working on. Hopefully you all will be able to earn some credit at some point for the work that you've done through the IB program. But we just don't have any information from admissions yet. And hopefully soon we'll have a little bit more clarity regarding that.
Yeah, I just posted a link to the admissions site that deals with test credit in the chat. So it'll show you both the scores and credit you can expect from different AP or IB credit. But they also have a little disclaimer saying, hey, we understand a lot of these are being canceled. We're figuring it out. Stay tuned. So it'll be through admissions that, like Cliff said, they'll kind of update as they figure out how they can best give you credit for the work you've done.
Yes, on a similar note, if we don't receive our AP scores from this year until after registration, how will credit for those classes work? So I know that the scores are going to be posted, I think, for AP around middle of July, July 15th or so, which is, of course, after your July 8th and 9th registration. Essentially, what you'll have to do, I would say, if you have not already indicated, go ahead and make sure you indicate UNC as a recipient of those scores so that as soon as those grades are posted, they can go ahead and get processed and sent to UNC and then posted to your Connect Carolina. There's really nothing you can do about it. Unfortunately, during your July 8th and 9th registration window, the good thing, and Adam is going to talk a little bit more about that later, but registration will open back up for all students to get back into the system on July 29th. And so at that point, hopefully those scores will be listed there. And then you'll be able to register for those classes that you maybe weren't able to the first time because you didn't have those prerequisite requirements uploaded into the system. So do what you can during July 8th and 9th. You'll be able to get back into the system on July 29th, and you'll be able to continue making changes to your schedule, adding and dropping from July 29th all the way up into August 14th. So I know it's a tricky situation and tough that those aren't going to be uploaded into Connect Carolina prior to your registration, but July 29th is going to be a great opportunity for you to get back in there and make those adjustments at that time.
See, there's a question about dual enrollment transcripts. So all of your transcripts, whether that's from a different school, something you did during high school, or something you take later, all of those need to go to undergraduate admissions. Most, the registrar for the institution that you're sending it from will usually have a list of places to choose from, so you don't necessarily have to add a particular email address. You can just pick from a drop down, I want this to go to UNC Chapel Hill, and they'll route it exactly where it needs to go. So as long as you make sure it goes to the undergraduate admissions, not the graduate school or something like that, you should be all set. I don't know if there's anything else needs said about that.
No, just other than it, of course, it would need to be the official transcript. And usually that comes directly from the institution. And so if they are asking for a specific email address, I feel like they probably would be able to have a list already since they're used to sending those out to schools.
Mm-hmm. That can't be everything. What else we got? So I'm gonna pick on you. What are some things you wish you knew when you were registering for the first time?
I guess just to not be too overwhelmed by not getting into the classes right away, because the add drop period is very useful in terms of getting into a course that like you saw was closed at one point. So I would say like being very flexible with your schedule and allowing room for it to change was a few things. I don't know about a specific question, but.
Can I ask a follow-up? Looking back, is there anything that you would have changed about your first semester schedule?
I think that I would have tried to, because I was interested in STEM during my first semester, but I ended up only taking gen eds and first year seminars my first semester. So I wouldn't necessarily change it because it was a great way to introduce myself to a certain level of college work, but I would have definitely tried to include a science course in some format just to like kind of get started on the track.
Oh, let's see, another question about the pre-enrolled courses. Yes, you can drop them immediately. As soon as your registration window opens on July 8th, you can drop what's in there, replace it with whatever else you want to throw in there. Drop one, drop both, whatever you like. So as soon as you're able to get in there, you can change those around. And maybe just to circle back to what Salma was saying, there's a particular mentality I would want to maybe call out, especially among STEM students, to check the boxes as quickly as possible. And I see that often with gen eds where it's like, okay, let me get all the gen eds out of the way, and then I can focus on the classes that are really interesting. The problem with that rationale, especially for STEM students, is once you have all your gen eds done, that only leaves STEM courses. And so suddenly you're looking at a semester that's like biochem, physics, math, stats, and that's not a semester that anyone should have to do. So when you're trying to restrict yourself to maybe 2 or 3 STEM courses at a time, just to make sure that you're not getting overwhelmed, those gen eds can be super helpful, right, to balance out your schedules. So even if you're just doing 1 or 2 per semester, 8 semesters is plenty of time to get through every single one of those gen eds, right? So I would encourage you not to think of it in terms of like, let me finish all these and then I'll finish all those, but keep it balanced every semester, take a little bit of each, and I think you'll find in general your semesters go much better.
Yeah, I would say that applies to just in general, not just STEM, but we want your courses and your schedules to be balanced every semester, definitely topic related. So, you know, a major course, a couple major courses, and then gen eds or varying interests or minor interests or, you know, those types of things. But also with regard to class times, class formats, like, you know, we wouldn't recommend that you have 5 courses on Tuesdays and Thursdays and no courses on Mondays and Wednesdays and Fridays. It sounds kind of good in theory, but once you're actually living that schedule, it's not a great idea. And so we just want to encourage you to think about your schedule and have it be balanced related to topics as well as times and class formats and things like that.
Yeah, okay. Abby asks, will you be able for questions after orientation? Yes. And if not, when will we get our academic advisor? Yeah, so we'll explore here at the end of the session a few different ways that you can get in contact with us. Mostly it's going to be geared around registration. So around your window, we're going to have support both before and during. So if you have questions later, you can circle back and ask those then, right around when you're going to register. Your advisors will be assigned for the fall semester. So once classes actually start in the fall, you'll be able to set up appointments. First week of classes is all drop-ins all the time, so you can just come by the office, presumably come by the office and talk to us. So we'll have availability then as well, but we'll go over the specific stuff you can do around your registration appointment at the end of this.
Can we be STEM and pre-law? And I would say the answer to that is yes. Your major and your ultimate career does not always have to correspond. I mean, I think that's something that we're seeing even more now than ever. Pre-law is not necessarily a plan of study. Usually for pre-law, you're gonna want to develop competencies across a variety of disciplines. So, you're gonna wanna take, a history course or 2, communication studies, political science, public policy, those types of courses, but those can be in addition to and supplement your STEM courses. So, for most majors, you're going to take your gen eds, of course, you're going to take your major courses, and that usually still leaves, a certain amount of courses that you still need to take in order to reach 120 or 123 overall hours. And so what students would do in that situation is once they've completed, or as they complete their major courses in gen eds, they also take a history course every semester, or a public policy course every semester, or an economics course. So they're working toward both of those things at the same time. And usually there's plenty of room for students to be able to do that. And that applies in the reverse. So students who may have a major in the humanities, arts, and social sciences, but want to, go to a pre-health program or pre-med, where you can take, your sociology courses, or you can take your history courses for your major, but also while you're doing that, take your chemistries and your biologies and math that you need for pre-health or pre-med. So, what you choose as your major does not necessarily prevent you from also exploring and pursuing other postgraduate options.
And sort of to piggyback off that, I'd encourage you, this first 2 semesters in particular is a great time to cast a wide net and explore a lot of things, because then you have 6 more semesters, 7 more semesters to finish anything that you find. Like if you take a gen ed just because it sounds interesting and suddenly you're going down this rabbit hole you never knew existed, and you think, oh great, I could do this major, that's not going to be an option if you figure that out junior year. So being able to, again, under the restrictions of, it's hard to get classes that you want, silver lining, you can just kind of take whatever is available, knowing that you have a lot of time to finish any of the degrees, finish any of those pre-health, pre-law, any kind of aspirations you have after school, really with any major. So it's just about using those first couple of semesters to find the thing that you actually really are passionate about, because you'll have plenty of time to finish it.
And I think to add on to that point, one thing I guess I wish I looked more into myself was like kind of the professional tracks. Like if you're still interested in applying to the business school or health policy and management major or the nursing major, definitely look into those as soon as possible, just to see like what kind of prerequisites you would need to apply during your sophomore year, because that's when you would be applying for those specific majors. So yeah, I would definitely recommend like looking into that as well.
Yeah, is anyone here thinking about applying to a professional school, nursing, public health, business, anything like that? Nope. Does that mean no one's doing it, or just no one wants to say anything? Great.
I'm planning on going pre-dental and want to go to the Adams School of Dentistry.
There we go. So yeah, that's a good distinction to make. Like some of the professional schools, they have undergraduate degrees that you apply to while you're at UNC. So say I want to get a bachelor's of science degree in public health, you'd be applying, in the first 2 years of your time here to move over to the School of Public Health. Other professional programs like dental school, med school, law school, those would happen after you graduate from undergrad. So you have a lot more time to kind of get your ducks in a row. But it is worth considering, as Selma said, some of those professional programs are really cool. And you're on such a kind of tight timeline to figure out if it's something you're into, and also can I apply to it in time, that you really want to hit the ground running and take a look at, what does public health offer? What does nursing offer? What does pharmacy offer? Whatever. All these different schools that are on the campus that you don't necessarily just jump right into. Thanks for throwing us a bone. What else we got? Is anyone feeling entirely overwhelmed? No? Cool as cucumbers?
Hey, Adam, one thing we may want to do, and now that we have a little bit more time, is go into the new student guide a bit. Since we didn't really get into it too much, and I know that, students may not have seen it yet. Since we do have time and there's no questions, it might be a good idea just to cover like some of the ones that might be more impactful for registration.
Sure.
And I can share my screen if that would be.
Oh, yeah, go for it.
Okay. All right.
And if you do have questions, feel free to jump in about this or anything else. Throw it in the chat, and we'll take them as they come.
Yep. And so the new student guide is a wonderful resource for students to utilize. There's things in here about registration and transfer credit and AP credit and all of that great information. I just got here from the unc.edu homepage. When in doubt, this is a great place to get started, and you can click the search. And I just typed in new student guide. It is accessible to you also through Sakai, I believe. There's links there as well. So you can go. Again, this is a really, really great resource. One that I really want to point out so that you are aware of it is page 34 through 37. What we've done is put together a list of courses that are appropriate for incoming first year students based on your majors of interest. And you can see here how those are outlined. So like, for example, of course, biology, those courses, as Dr. Schimmer and Dr. Estelle indicated, are listed there. You can see that they are essentially all at the 100 level, except for the calculus, which is 200 level, and that one biology exception. But if you have an interest in another area, you want to do bio, but you also are interested in communication studies, you can see, okay, let me go here. Let me see, this recommends any communication studies course essentially at the 100 level or first year seminars. So pages 34 through 37 are really, really great resources for you to use. It allows you to narrow down your search if you know certain areas or majors that you're interested in. And that's really a benefit of this new student guide, this information that's listed. Also, as we kind of were just talking about, if you're interested in a professional school like dental school, as we kind of just discussed, like there's some courses here that you may want to consider based on your interests there. Med school, the business school, all of those are already listed there for you. So this, again, can help supplement what you've already learned about what you should take during your first semester and kind of help narrow down some of your course selection there. So this is something that you can utilize, but the whole new student guide is something that you should definitely read through when you get a chance.
Yeah, and in tandem with that, like looking at all the majors listed like this, I'd encourage you to use the catalog to explore any that kind of pique your interest. I think some of them may seem intuitive, like biology or math or something that you've seen in high school, but like management and society, like I still don't really know what that is. Right? Like there's a lot of interdisciplinary degrees that bring in stuff from a lot of different departments that aren't necessarily your kind of average basic degrees that you may be familiar with. So it's really worth seeing what options you have available early so that you can kind of investigate, take a class, see if you like linguistics 101, because maybe that's something you want to pursue. And then you can kind of plan the rest of your time around what you discover those first couple of years.
Yep. Essentially everything that you heard yesterday during the part 1 of the Ready, Set, Register video that you've watched is also referenced here. So if you need another format of that or don't particularly care to watch the whole video again, just to get the documents and the guides and resources, you can find all of that information in the new student guide.
Okie dokie. Have you had lunch yet already? Is this what this is? Like post-eating comas? We're just kind of along for the ride. Seems like it. This is easier in a real room where you can't put your mute on. All right, we got a few minutes left here. I will direct your attention over here. We've got a few things. I know we had some questions about support after this, if you want to ask questions, and as things come up when you get closer to registration, we want to point you to a few different things that we're going to do to make things as easy as possible for you. So one, schedule feedback. 2 weeks, within 2 weeks of you registering, you're going to get an email from one of us letting you know anything that we see when you look at your schedule. It could be as simple as, hey, looks great, or hey, I see you're in 3 STEM classes and 2 labs. Probably wouldn't do that if I were you. So you'll get a little bit of feedback right away before open enrollment starts. So you can take that back and kind of make any adjustments you want to make based on that feedback. Your registration dates are July 8th and 9th for this session, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. So keep that on the calendar so again, right away you can get in there. Times are Eastern for anyone that's outside of the state right now, so keep that in mind if you're in a different time zone at the time of your registration. Few things that we're going to be doing during and before your registration dates. There is an optional webinar, so it'll be something similar to this, just with a lot more students. We give you an opportunity to ask any questions you have prior to registration. So night before, hey, I've got a few things I want to clear up before I go in at 10 a.m. and start picking classes, getting them in there. So that's an option to get anything before you actually go and register. During your registration period, we're going to have chat and Zoom advisors available through our website. Remember, we saw that little chat bar, and we'll send it more information through Sakai how to access the Zoom advisors. But if you have specific questions you want to get done while you're registering, you can use those 2 resources to get questions answered. Email is going to be more general. Obviously, it'll be a little more lag as far as a response. So if it's something, leading up to, you want to send an email tomorrow because, figure out something before your registration starts, that's fine. But those other resources are going to be much more helpful in the moment when you're trying to get things done or running into some issues. Whoops. July 29th, as Cliff mentioned, that's open enrollment, so you'll be able to get back in there and make adjustments to your schedule. So don't feel like it has to be perfect by the time your registration window opens. Frankly, as long as you're in 12 or more hours, we'll call it a victory, and we can always make adjustments as things go and kind of piecemeal add to it and make it better. There is a form on Sakai for you to change your major, so it may have changed from when you first applied. You thought you're going to be a bio major, and now you want to be anthropology. You have the option to do that. It's not necessarily super important that it needs to be done right now. You can always do that in the fall when you come and see us. But if it's something that you know for sure you want to do and you just want to make the change in the system, you can submit that form and we'll make that change so that your major is correct. As we mentioned, you'll have an assigned advisor in the fall. That's just as kind of a point of reference. So if you need to talk to somebody, here's a name, you can look them up and set up an appointment. But really, it's all about finding a personal connection with the advisor that you're meeting with. So it doesn't really matter who they are, what majors they cover. If you meet with them and you like them, you're welcome to set up appointments with them as much as you like, or anyone else. So don't feel like you're restricted to just the advisor that's listed on your student center when the fall comes. Once the semester actually starts, we're going to have a week of all-day drop-ins. So you can just come to the office, or if we're doing it virtually, you can just hop in to have a drop-in appointment, just quick questions you need to get done, but you don't have time to do the appointment. So that whole week, we're going to be available whenever you are, so come on by. That should be about everything. Just quickly before I let you go, there's this QR code on the screen. If you can just take a quick snap of that. There's a really short survey just to make sure that we're doing everything we need to do. If you had things that you wish were covered, or things that have been covered ad nauseum and you never want to see them again, let us know. We want to make this better as we go. So if you could just take a few minutes before you head on to the next thing, you can take a picture of that.
Yeah, and just so you all know, our next session is back in my Zoom link, and it's our last session of orientation. So I'll see you all there in a few minutes.
Great, yeah, I think we're at time, right? So I can let you 1 minute early even, I'll let you on to the next thing. Thanks for stopping in. Really appreciate the opportunity to tell you what we're all about and how we can help you and give you some more resources to follow up on. But again, if you have more questions, we're always here, especially around your registration period. We'll have more resources available for you. Check Sakai. It has all the latest information and your UNC email. You might not be used to checking that regularly yet, but make that your kind of default email address, because everything important is going to go through there. Between those two things, you should be able to keep up. Otherwise, we look forward to see you in the fall. Cliff, anything you add?
Nope. Just stay safe, and we look forward to meeting you soon.